Jeff Daniels, thank you for taking the time to talk to us on One Detroit.
Thanks for having me.
Everybody knows you for your work as an actor in theater and television and film, but Michigan theater lovers, of course, know you as the founder of the Purple Rose Theater in Chelsea, which has now been going for more than 30 years and where you've premiered more than 20 of your original plays now.
Yeah, that's true. And here comes another one. I just can't stop.
And we'll get to the play in a moment, but just first of all, for people who have never been to the Purple Rose Theater and who have maybe never been to Chelsea, just tell us a little bit about what the Purple Rose is and how you came to start it in the town where you grew up.
Well, when my wife Kathleen and we moved back in the middle '80s, and decided to raise our family here and use Metro Detroit Airport as kind of the commuting service for me. And it worked out all right. The kids are in their 30s now, but while I was here, after a few years, I missed the creativity and the imagination that being an actor can bring, whether you're on a movie set or on stage somewhere. And so I bought a building and gambled that there would be theater artists around that might be interested, and there were, and then kind of developed this theater that is different than other theaters. It's not big. It's 168 seats on three sides, and you are in the play. You are a part of it, and it's kind of like watching a movie. It's kind of like a medium close up. You're that close. You're close enough to see the actors or the characters thinking, and that's a lot of fun for the actors and for us. And it's been almost 34 years of doing that, and now we're kind of coming back from COVID, and where people kind of learn to live without going to theater and things like that. And we're doing a lot of comedies right now, and we're kind of trying to bring the audience back. We're trying to win them back, and making sure that what we're doing is of the highest quality once they get in the building.
Was it a challenge getting the theater community or getting theater goers to go, out to Chelsea and kind of so far beyond, Metro Detroit or areas like that?
Well, everybody thinks, Chelsea's only 15 miles west of Ann Arbor, but to some people that's like next to Chicago. So you've got to convince them that it's okay. I mean, some of us drive into Detroit. So those of you who are west of Detroit, it's really not that far. And because of the Purple Rose, we a whole bunch of restaurants popped up, and hotels, and B&Bs and Airbnb, all that stuff. There are literally like four or five restaurants in town, including the Common Grill and Smokehouse Barbecue and Cleary's and Grateful Crow. And I mean, it's you can go there. It's become a destination. And now our whole thing is that if we can make you laugh, and you can be 30 years old or 65 or 70, we will make you laugh. And once you come to us, and once we kind of get you in the building, and you see what we do, and it's a great night out. And we're also artists. We know how to do what we do really well. And people are coming back. They're starting to come back. They're trending up. But it is, the theaters, when COVID hit, we were the first to go down, first to shut down because of, the proximity of an audience. And we're the last to come back. And it's taken a little bit to get people used to going out again, getting people to, put down their phone and stop, surfing YouTube tonight for 2 hours. And that's your entertainment now. They stopped going to restaurants in the same way because now there's DoorDash, and Netflix is your movie theater. And so we're going, no, 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 you can, if you risk it, you'll have a great night out at the Purple Rose. And that's what this next play delivers.
Perfect segue into the play. Office Christmas Party, Grinch and Fight with Rudolph, Police Called. A new comedy written and also directed by you. It is based on a police blotter headline, and beyond that, an original invention of yours. Tell us a bit about it.
Well, I saw this headline on that digital online paper, mlive.com. It was from somewhere up north, and it was just the headline. That was the headline. And as soon as I read that headline, Office Christmas Party, Grinch and Fight with Rudolph, police called, I said, that's a comedy. I read the article. There was very little information in it. And I said, that's okay. I'll make it up. And so I've completely made up this slam bang comedy set in the Middletown Fudge Factory in Middletown, Michigan. And, you know, a failing business. Of the 6 fudge companies in Michigan, it's number 6. And, you know, if they don't have a good December, they won't see the end of January. And then this happens. And then the fight that they had, which really wasn't a fight, it was just an argument between 2 coworkers over where to clap on Silent Night, what goes viral. And once it hits the internet, then all hell breaks loose. And that's when the you know, comedy really kicks in.
The run of the play, and it's opening in previews now, and it's going to be playing into the holidays. So perfect time of year for everybody to come out for it.
Yep, all the way from we'll preview this weekend and then open October 4th. It'll go all the way to Christmas.
And now, having written over 20 plays now, I mean, just curious about your artistic process. Like, how do you approach writing?
Well, it's the idea. Any writer will tell you, a lot of ideas surface, but do they have legs? Can you construct a story with a beginning, middle, and an end that, yeah, even with a comedy, says something? And this one does, and it did. It takes a while to find it, and that's why you go through. I mean, Grinch and Rudolph has probably gone through easily 9 drafts, maybe 10. We were probably 8 by the time we got into rehearsals just before Labor Day. And the actors bring ideas, and you just see things that can be made better if you know, rewrite it a little bit or cut something. Or so that's the fun of doing something absolutely original, and also setting it in this corner of the country. You know, I'm writing about here. And everybody who's going to come to see this is going to recognize this as Michigan, as here, as people they kind of know, might know, certainly have run across, as they, you know, we all live here in southeastern Michigan. So that's the fun of it too, is kind of writing for this audience, about this audience, to this audience, and doing everything I can to make them double over with laughter. That's my goal with this one. I want them laughing harder than they have in a long time.
And yeah, very cool about writing to a Michigan audience as well. I mean, of course, I know many of your plays have been set here. I mean, famously, Escanaba into Moonlight is one that I hear people bring that up and talk about the play or the film all the time as one that they love.
Yeah, and we had people coming to the theater for Escanaba and the Moonlight, deer hunters who had never been in a theater before in their lives. They were showing up, like 10 of them, wearing their hunting gear. They had their orange on, they had their licenses on their back. They were seeing a play about deer hunting set in the Upper Peninsula, and they were loving it. It was the same thing when I wrote Pickleball. My wife, you know, became addicted to pickleball, like so many people have become addicted to pickleball. And I said, there's a comedy there. And we did that 2 falls ago. And 51% of the people who came to see pickleball were coming to the Purple Rose for the first time. So there's a big audience out there of people who there's an audience who've been, but a bigger audience of people who still haven't come to the Purple Rose. And that's what I think the comedies are doing, is that this is theater for everybody, and we're not political, and we're just trying to make everybody laugh at the same thing, and then slip in that thing that it says near the end. And you know, that's it takes good writers to do that. And then Purple Rose has a half a dozen or so real good writers who are writing plays just for us, which is a thrill for me.
I mean, I was looking at the rest of the 2024-2025 season, and all 4 plays are either world premieres or Michigan premieres. I know that incubating or commissioning new plays by playwrights is something that you really pride yourself on. Talk to me a bit about that, like that stable of writers that you just mentioned.
Well, it came from Circle Rep. When I went to New York City in 1976, Circle Repertory Company was one of the premier off-Broadway theater companies in New York. And I'll never forget walking in there that first week, and there were half a dozen playwrights, each one of them walking around rewriting a second act. All the playwrights I had done at, in college and high school musicals were either dead or, you're never going to meet them. Here they are sitting, going like this, trying to figure out their second act. It was thrilling. Living, breathing playwrights creating right in front of me. So that stayed with me. And every movie I've done pretty much has been, you know, original, brand new. And so that's always been the case. So when I got back to Michigan and said, well, let's start a theater company, I was never interested in doing what was popular in New York last year. Where are the writers? Well, there weren't many. And then I found some and developed some, and they stuck with us. And now, 33 years later, it's a little bit like Newsroom. When I did Newsroom for HBO, and Aaron Sorkin had a room full of writers, and they would research or they would write episodes, or and he would, come in, rewrite, and he was the head writer to be sure. But it feels like I've got half a dozen to even almost a dozen writers who are coming to me pitching outlines and stories, and then you get them to write that first draft, because I'm not going to book an idea. And if that first draft comes in, knowing that this is a professional writer, that he or she or they are going to be able to, go through 5 or 6 drafts because they're pros, and that's what pros do, is they rewrite, then I'll book it. And you've got a year and a half or so to, do your rewrites, but we're going to do it. And it's working. It's working. And I want them writing for this audience. I'm not interested in, again, what was popular on Broadway last year that we get the rights to do. I don't care. I think regional theaters would do well to write about where they are. Seattle should write about Seattle. Denver should write about Denver. We're writing about this corner of the country. Write to your audience. And that's what we're doing. And, if you write about them, they will come. That's the hope anyway.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, and you mentioned that two more drafts of this play happened during rehearsals. So, do you find a lot about the play, or does it change a lot once you actually are there with the actors in the space working with it?
Yeah, you get better, after 20 plays, you become a better editor of yourself. So, I say drafts, it's not like the story changed. It was more a line here, a line there. Let's make that speech longer. Let's do more with that. You might see something in an actor where they need more there. And you go, all right, let's come up with it. And we've sat at the table, with the actors during Grinch and Rudolph. I'm going, okay, what do you want to say? Tell me. Go further. No, cut that. Don't do that. Okay, keep going. Go. So we construct it sometimes together, and it goes in. And it's kind of thrilling. I mean, we'll get into preview weekend. Also, we'll see what works, what doesn't. That joke you thought was absolutely 100% guaranteed to stop the show lays there like a salmon on a beach, and you got to cut it. You got to cut it. So I'm hopeful that what we're doing, there's enough experience and knowledge of what works and what might be funny and what won't be, but there will still be some things that we're trying. I know there are things we are going into previews, kind of doing this, going, man, I hope this works. And if it doesn't, we cut it, and then we go into opening and we're done. Yeah.
Hearing about that whole process now, as you're the director of this one, also, I mean, you're a writer, you're an actor, you've worked with other great writers like Aaron Sorkin, who you mentioned. How does those other facets of what you do influence you as a director?
Well, you learn how to view the play as a story, and you learn more about story structure when you sit around a Lanford Wilson, who won a Pulitzer Prize for drama, Aaron Sorkin, who's won an Oscar, for writing. and others. They aren't the only ones. Scott Frank, who wrote and directed Godless, the Netflix thing I did. I've been around some really good writers, and as Seeger said in a lyric once, Bob Seeger, he said, "What to leave in, what to leave out," and you learn how to do that. But as a director, you kind of have to tell the playwright to go away for a while and just see if you can get this pony up on its legs. And once you do that, it becomes about what do you need and what do you not need. And something you thought as a playwright that needed to be in there suddenly is, oh, that's obvious. We need to cut that. And then it works. And that's just being able to kind of, shut the playwright brain off and put on a director's hat and kind of just go, okay, okay, and view it a little more ruthlessly. And that's what good directors do. They do. And they'll sit down with a writer and go, I think you need to work harder on this one scene to set up the one later. Directors are pretty good with story structure. And I've got some good people at the theater who can who have my back, Rhiannon Raglan and my son Luke Daniels. I mean, the artistic director job at the Purple Rose is a three-headed monster. It's the three of us. And, they're in my ear about things that, not so sure about that. And that helps. It really helps.
And now you mentioned a few times, writing and crafting these plays for this audience here and not, based on what's going on in New York or whatnot. You do a lot of acting on Broadway, in front of giant audiences with stuff like To Kill a Mockingbird. How different is like this world of the Purple Rose Theater in Chelsea after, working in that world as well?
Well, the difference is Broadway, the Schubert Theater, To Kill a Mockingbird. The critics can make the play go, or it can close it. Basically, they really can. Um, and if you're in a hit on Broadway, you're sold out for 4 months straight, and you can get $300 a ticket, sometimes more. So that's a whole different animal. And the national attention, and suddenly you're doing interviews on 60 Minutes, or you're doing Colbert to support the play. It's a bigger deal. But at 8 o'clock at night, it's still the same, whether it's at the Schubert Theater or these folks, these Michigan theater artists stepping on stage at the Purple Rose. This is their Broadway. And I have brought a professional atmosphere to the theater, and these people have responded. And there's a lot of talent here in Michigan, and it just needs to be developed. And I part of the fun for me and the joy for me to kind of come back to the Purple Rose is to give them everything I've ever learned. And they listen, and they have the talent to execute it. And suddenly their performance goes from here to there simply because of stuff I've learned from people who were far better than I was, in the last few decades. So that happens. And a hit on Broadway is the same as a hit at the Purple Rose, in the sense that the audience comes there wanting to see this. We don't have a subscription audience. We have people that either see the ad for Office Christmas Party, or they've heard about it, or they want to see a comedy by me. They want to be there. And so when those lights go down, there's an energy in that audience, and the actors feel it, whether it's us going on in Mockingbird or whether it's at the Purple Rose for Grinch and Rudolph. There is an energy because of that audience wanting to see, who have made the effort to come out to Chelsea. They had they had the meal. Now they're here. Now they're seeing the show, and they're ready to go. They want to see it. And it's a joy to play to an audience like that. And that's kind of what we've created at the Purple Rose. And we kind of hit that now every show we do.
And of course, the plays I know are just part of what you do with the Purple Rose. I know you also do a lot of community engagement there, a lot of stuff with the public library there in Chelsea, including the play readings. I know you just
Mhm.
had one of those the other weekend. Um, Talk to me a bit about that other like the play readings, the workshops, the other kind of community outreach stuff like that you do.
Uh, it's helpful for the writers in particular. It allows them to kind of, hear, we just we read a play, Apartment 3A, that I wrote, geez, 1996, I think. We produced it. We produced it again later, like 2015. We read it again because it's holding up. And there's a whole new cast of actors now in our 34th year almost that, it gets to kind of come alive again. So it helped me to hear it. Other plays that other playwrights have written, we'll kind of bring them in just so they can hear them out loud with actors, even if it's a Zoom reading. The comments by the people watching are helpful, but it's mainly for the writers
Hmm.
to hear their work. It really, every play I've ever written or any play we have ever done, there's always a reading, months before that may end up putting it into a workshop for a week or so where the writer really gets to kind of see actors work with it and hear him and go, thank you. Please let me do a rewrite, which is usually the case from the pros, whether it's Dave McGregor or Kerry Krim or Eric Pfeffinger. We got Matt Lisher, Paul Stroily, who wrote Jukebox a couple summers ago. The pro writers can't wait to hear it so they can rewrite it, and that's that. The library readings help us do that. And also it's like reaches out. There are a lot of people that, are living in California or Ohio or, places too far away that they just aren't going to come to the Purple Rose and would love to at least be involved. And so it's kind of lets them know that we're still here and that maybe someday when they're around, they might stop in.
And now for people who come see the play at the Purple Rose and love it and want more, tell me a bit about the rest of the season that you have planned that are more Michigan and world premieres.
Well, it's from this room of writers, I call them, this playwriting group. Eric Pfeffinger is a Toledo playwright. Wrote a play called Human Error that we did a couple of years ago, and he's a real good writer with a great sense of humor. He has this play called 14 Funerals, which is actually a comedy, and it's just really well done. And Eric's working on a new one for us, but this was one that he had sitting around. I said, well, we're happy to do that one at Michigan premiere. Paul Stroily, who wrote Jukebox for the Algonquin a couple of summers ago, big hit. And Paul, who is in Office Christmas Party, Grinch, and Rudolph, he's playing a guy named Jerry Cornicelli, who actually is the Grinch. He dresses up as the Grinch for the Office Christmas Party. So Stroily he's a playwright. He's a writer. He's an actor, but he's a writer. And I've really kind of gone, no, you can write. Come on, come on. And he's written a comedy that we're going to put up next spring called My Mother in the Michigan-Ohio War. And he just came to me with the idea, and I said, yeah, go, run with it. And he knows our actors and he knows the theater. And so he's writing it specifically, tailoring it for our company and for our theater. And then Matt Lesher, who is a Michigan grad from that I've known since the early 90s as an actor. He's out in California still acting, but he's a writer. He's written half a dozen plays. And I called him up about, a year ago. I said, I need you to write the funniest play you've ever written in your life. And he came up with a play uh, that takes place in the waiting room of a veterinarian's office and called Bert and Trixie Visit the Vet. And it's funny. It's funny. So it's a little bit like what I do to me. I'm going, Jeff, we need another comedy. And so I search my brain for, and then I stumble on something and I grab it and I go, okay, go. And I'm doing the same thing with the writers, the other writers. I'm going, write specifically in this direction for our audience. Go. Pitch me the idea and then go. And we'll be there to help you, to support you. And they've responded. It's different than taking submissions from agents or playwrights you don't know who are writing for themselves. And I'm kind of going, no, I need you to write for this audience, which is another way of saying I need you to pay attention to the box office. Because if we don't do plays that our audience wants to see, we won't be here in 2 years. And that's the problem with the American regional theater in particular, the not-for-profits, is that COVID, we learned to live without a lot of things. And one of them was theater. And this is like I said earlier, we have to win this audience back. And I need my writers to pay attention to the audience and lure them in. And we're using funny to do that. And then once we got them, we deliver funny, but then we slip in and then here's what we're saying, So, and we call it smart funny.
Smart funny. I like that. That sounds like a fantastic season of stuff coming up at the Purple Rose. Any other events on the calendar that we need to know about? I know you sometimes drop in and do music performances and other things of that nature at the Purple Rose as well.
Yeah, I'm scheduled to be available between Christmas and New Year's when I'll do my unplugged show at the Purple Rose. It raises a lot of money for us. It's like, I do it for free. The playwright and director's fees I donate back. As an artistic director, I'm unpaid. So this is just my way of keeping something going for a lot of great Michigan theater artists. And an audience too that I hope wants what we do.
Watch One Detroit, Thursday at 7:30 p.m.
You can find more at onedetroitpbs.org or subscribe to our social media channels and sign up for our One Detroit newsletter.